Hey there, friends. Are you ready for a super cool story? I'm going to tell you something exciting today, and I promise it's going to grab your attention right from the start. Before we begin, I've got a fun question for you. Have you ever thought someone was just normal, but then they surprised you with something amazing? Tell me in the comments below. Oh, and let me know where you're watching from today. If you like awesome stories like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so we can hang out more. Okay, let's jump in. Imagine a little diner way out in Texas. It's not a big, fancy place, just a small spot by a quiet, lonely road. The road is dusty, and there's not much around except some trees and wide open land. Inside the diner, it smells like strong coffee, the kind grown ups love. There's an old music box in the corner, a jukebox that plays fun country songs with guitars and singing. The people who come here all the time know each other. They wave and say, "Hi, Bob," or "Hey, Mary." It's like a little family. Now, let me tell you about Sarah Miller. She's the new waitress at this diner. When you see her, she looks pretty normal. She's not loud or wild. She's quiet and nice, and she always smiles at everyone. Her hair is brown and short, tied back with a little band so it doesn't fall in her face. She wears an old apron that's kind of faded, like it's been washed a million times. When she pours drinks like coffee or soda, her hands move super fast. She's good at her job, and people like her because she's friendly. If you walked into the diner, you'd think, "Oh, she's just a regular waitress." That's what everyone in town thought too. Nothing special, right? Wrong. Here's the big thing you need to know: Sarah isn't who she seems to be. Nope, not even close. Behind her calm, green eyes that look peaceful, like a still pond, there's a huge secret. It's a secret so big, so surprising, that if people found out, the whole town would flip upside down. Imagine a sleepy little place where nothing exciting ever happens, and then boom, something wild shakes everything up. That's what Sarah's secret could do. But guess what? Nobody knows it yet. Not the people eating their burgers and fries. Not her boss, who runs the diner. And definitely not the loud, tough bikers who are about to show up. They have no idea what's coming. Let's paint the picture a little more. The diner is small, with red seats and tables that are a little scratched up from years of use. The windows are big, so you can see the highway outside. Sometimes a truck rumbles by, but mostly it's quiet. Sarah moves around, carrying trays of food, maybe some pancakes with syrup or a plate of crispy fries. She says things like, "Here you go," or "Need more coffee," in her soft voice. The regular customers, like old Mr. Jenkins who always orders pie, smile at her. They think she's sweet and simple. That's Sarah, she's a good worker, they say. Her boss, a guy named Tom, likes her too. He's a bit nervous and jumpy, but he's happy she's there because she keeps the place running smoothly. Outside, the sun is hot, and the air feels dry. You can hear crickets sometimes, chirping in the grass by the road. It's one of those places where life moves slow, and everyone knows everyone else's business, or so they think. Sarah fits right in, or at least it looks that way. She doesn't talk much about herself. If someone asks, "Where are you from, Sarah?" she just smiles and says, "Oh, around." Nobody pushes her to say more. Why would they? She's just the new waitress, right? She's not someone important. At least, that's what they all believe. But let's think about this for a second. What if someone isn't what they look like? Have you ever met a person who seemed boring or plain, but then you found out they could do something incredible like play music, win a race, or tell the best stories? That's kind of what's going on with Sarah. She's like a puzzle with a missing piece, and nobody's found that piece yet. Her green eyes don't give anything away. They're calm and steady, even when she's busy rushing around the diner. Her hands, though, they're fast and sure, like she's done harder things than pouring coffee. But nobody notices that. They're too busy eating or chatting or listening to the jukebox. Now, imagine you're sitting in that diner. You're munching on some fries, and Sarah walks by with a pot of coffee. She smiles at you, and you smile back. You don't think anything of it. She's just doing her job. But what if, deep down, she's hiding something huge? What if she's not just a waitress who showed up in town one day? What if she's someone who's been places, done things, and seen stuff most people can't even dream of? That's the fun part of the story. Nobody knows the truth yet. Not the guy sipping his soda. Not the lady reading the newspaper. And definitely not the bikers who are about to roll in on their loud motorcycles, thinking they're the toughest people around. So, here's a question for you to chew on. What do you think Sarah's secret could be? Is she a superhero in disguise? A spy taking a break? Maybe something even wilder? I'm not going to tell you yet, because that's the best part of a story waiting to find out. You've got to stick with me, because this is just the beginning. Those bikers are coming, and they're going to stir up trouble. But Sarah? She's got something up her sleeve, and it's going to surprise everyone. Let's set the scene a little more. It's a regular day at the diner. The clock on the wall ticks slowly. The jukebox plays a song about a cowboy riding across the plains. Sarah wipes down the counter with a rag, keeping everything clean. Outside, the sky is turning orange as the sun starts to set. It's peaceful, too peaceful, maybe. You can almost hear the rumble of motorcycles in the distance, getting closer. Trouble's on the way, but Sarah doesn't look worried. She just keeps working, like nothing's wrong. That's because she knows something nobody else does. The people in the diner don't see it. They don't see the way she stands a little straighter than most folks. They don't notice how her eyes flick to the door every now and then, like she's ready for anything. To them, she's just Sarah, the new girl who's good at her job. But you and I? We're starting to wonder. There's more to her, isn't there? Something big. Something exciting. And soon, everyone's going to find out. So, grab a seat, friends. Get comfy, because this story's about to get wild. Those bikers are almost here, and they're going to mess with the wrong waitress. What's Sarah hiding? How's she going to handle them? You'll see soon enough. Stick around, because you won't believe what happens next. Okay, friends, let's keep this story rolling. You're in for some excitement now. We're at the part where things start to heat up. Imagine you're sitting in that little Texas diner with me, munching on some fries, and suddenly trouble walks in. Are you ready? Let's go. It was a Friday night, and the diner was buzzing a little more than usual. The jukebox was playing a fun song, and the smell of burgers cooking filled the air. Outside, the sky was dark, and the stars were starting to peek out. Everything seemed normal until you heard it. A loud rumble, like thunder, but it wasn't a storm. It was motorcycles. A whole gang of bikers rolled up to the diner, their engines roaring so loud the windows shook. They parked their shiny bikes right outside, and then they came stomping in. These guys were big and tough looking. They wore leather jackets and heavy boots that made loud thumps on the floor. Their leader was a guy named Jake. He was tall, with a messy beard that looked like he hadn't brushed it in forever. His jacket was covered in colorful patches, like badges that said he was the boss. He walked in with a big, mean grin like he knew he could make people nervous, and he liked it. His buddies followed him, laughing and pushing each other, acting like they owned the whole place. The other people in the diner, folks eating their dinners, looked up, then quickly looked away. Nobody wanted trouble. Sarah, our waitress, was behind the counter. She didn't even blink. She just kept doing her job, calm as ever. The bikers sat down at a big table, and she walked over with her notepad. "What do you want?" she asked, nice and polite. They ordered burgers, fries, and beers, shouting their words like they were the only ones in the room. Sarah nodded, wrote it down, and went to get their stuff. Easy, right? No big deal. But Jake, he didn't like no big deal. He leaned over the counter when she came back with their drinks. His grin got wider, and he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Hey, sweetheart, smile a little more, huh? You're too pretty to look so bored." His voice was teasing, but not in a nice way. It was mean, like he wanted to embarrass her. His biker friends laughed, slapping the table like it was the funniest thing ever. The other people in the diner squirmed in their seats. You could tell they felt bad for Sarah, but nobody said a word. They just stared at their plates, pretending not to hear. Sarah. She didn't laugh or smile. Her face stayed blank, like she didn't even care. She nodded once, then turned back to her work, pouring coffee, wiping the counter, carrying trays. Jake's eyes narrowed. He didn't like that she wasn't scared or mad. He wanted her to react, to jump when he talked. So, he decided to push harder. First, he accidentally knocked over a salt shaker. It fell with a little clink, and salt spilled all over the table. "Oops," he said, smirking, "not sorry at all." Sarah grabbed a rag and cleaned it up, quick and quiet. Then Jake started snapping his fingers right in her face. Snap, 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 like she was a dog he could boss around. "Hey, hurry up, slowpoke," he said, laughing again. His buddies joined in, calling her slow and lazy, even though she was moving fast, doing her job perfectly. The air in the diner changed. It felt heavy, like when you know a storm's coming. Everyone could tell something was brewing, something big. But Sarah didn't yell or cry. She didn't even look mad. She stayed quiet, her green eyes sharp and steady, watching Jake like a hawk watches a mouse. She moved around the diner, bringing food and drinks, acting like nothing was wrong. But if you looked close, you could see she wasn't scared. Her hands didn't shake. Her steps didn't wobble. She was calm, too calm, maybe. It was like she knew something Jake didn't. Let's picture it more. The diner's lights were warm and yellow, shining on the red seats and scratched up tables. The jukebox kept humming its country tune, but it felt quieter now, like the bikers' loud voices were drowning it out. Jake sat back in his chair, legs stretched out, taking up space. His buddies were messy crumbs on the table, napkins tossed on the floor. They laughed and shouted, making the whole place feel smaller, tighter. The other customers tried to eat, but you could see them sneaking looks at Sarah, wondering what she'd do. Jake kept going. He'd say stuff like, "Where's my beer, huh? You deaf or something," even though she'd already brought it. He'd tap his glass on the table, bang, bang, loud enough to make people jump. One time, he waved his hand right in front of her face, so close she had to step back. "Wake up, sweetheart," he said, chuckling. His friends hooted, thinking it was hilarious. But Sarah just stepped around him, grabbed what she needed, and kept working. She didn't say a word back. Not one. The tension grew thicker. You know that feeling when you're waiting for something to happen, but you're not sure what? That's what it was like. The air felt tight, like it might snap any second. Jake was having fun, thinking he was in charge. He didn't see how Sarah's eyes followed him, sharp, careful, like she was studying every move he made. She wasn't just a waitress letting him win. She was waiting. For what? Nobody knew yet. Imagine you're there, watching it all. You see Jake being rude, acting big and tough. You see Sarah staying cool, not letting him get to her. The other people in the diner are nervous, picking at their food, whispering to each other. "Poor Sarah," someone mumbles. "Those guys are jerks," another says quietly. But nobody stands up. They're too afraid of Jake and his loud, rough friends. The bikers' boots stomp the floor. Their voices boom. It's like they're trying to take over the whole diner, and Sarah's the only one in their way. But here's the thing, Sarah didn't look weak. Even when Jake snapped his fingers or called her names, she stood tall. Her apron was tied tight, her hair still neat in its little band. She moved like she had a plan, like she wasn't bothered at all. If you watched her close, you might think, huh, she's not scared. Why not? Jake didn't notice that. He was too busy grinning and showing off. He thought he was winning. He thought Sarah was just some quiet girl who'd let him do whatever he wanted. Oh, boy, was he wrong. So, what's going to happen next? Can you feel it building up? Jake's being meaner and louder, and Sarah's staying quiet but not weak. The diner's getting tense, like a rubber band stretched tight. Something's coming, friends. Something big. What do you think Sarah's going to do? How long can she stay calm with Jake acting like this? Stick with me, because this story's about to get even wilder. Alright, friends, let's keep this story going. We're at the part where things start getting even more exciting. The trouble with Jake and his biker crew isn't over yet, it's just starting to grow. Picture yourself back in that little Texas diner, watching everything happen. It's getting wilder every night, and Sarah's still in the middle of it all. Ready? Here we go. The next few nights after that first big trouble, Jake and his biker gang kept coming back to the diner. They didn't just show up once and leave no way. They rolled in every evening, their motorcycles rumbling loud outside, making the windows shake. Each time they came, they acted bigger and meaner. It was like they wanted everyone to know they were the bosses of the place. They weren't just loud anymore, they were messy and rude, too. Imagine this, they'd sit at their big table, eating burgers and fries, but they wouldn't keep it neat. They'd leave trash all over, crumpled napkins, ketchup smeared on the seats, even bits of food on the floor. They'd yell stuff like, "Hey, this food's cold," even when it was steaming hot. Sometimes, they'd shout mean things just to be jerks. "Hurry up, lady," one guy would holler, or "this place stinks," another would say, laughing like it was a big joke. The other people in the diner, the regular folks eating their dinners, would look down at their plates, trying to ignore it. Nobody wanted to mess with these tough guys. One night, Jake took it even further. He and his crew ate their food, drank their beers, and then oops, they forgot to pay the whole bill. They left a couple of bucks on the table, but it wasn't enough. Jake stood up, stretched his arms, and sneered, "What's a little waitress gonna do about it?" Then he grabbed a dollar bill, crumpled it into a tiny ball, and tossed it right at Sarah's feet. It bounced on the floor, and his buddies laughed loud, slapping their knees. Jake's mean grin said he thought he was untouchable. The diner's owner, a guy named Tom, saw it all. Tom was a small, nervous man with glasses that always slipped down his nose. He didn't like trouble, nobody did, but he was extra scared of Jake and his gang. He shuffled over to Sarah, his hands fidgeting, and whispered, "Just let it go, Sarah. They're trouble. Don't make them mad." His voice was shaky, like he thought the bikers might break something if they got upset. He wanted everything to stay calm, even if it meant letting the bikers get away with being jerks. But Sarah? She didn't freak out. She didn't yell or cry or run away. Nope. She just bent down, picked up that crumpled dollar off the floor, and tucked it into her apron pocket like it was no big deal. Then she went right back to work, pouring coffee, clearing plates, wiping the counter. She acted like nothing happened. But if you looked really close, you'd see something cool. Her hands. They didn't shake at all. Not even a little. They were steady and strong, like she wasn't scared one bit. Most people would be nervous or mad if someone threw money at them, but not Sarah. She was different. And there was more. The way she moved around the diner, it was too smooth, too perfect. She didn't trip or bump into things like you might expect from a regular waitress who's tired or stressed. No, Sarah glided around, fast and sure, like she'd done way harder stuff than carrying trays. It was almost like she was playing a game, pretending to be just a waitress, while something bigger was hiding inside her. But nobody noticed, not Tom, not the customers, and definitely not Jake and his crew. They were too busy being loud and rude. Then came another night, and this one had a little surprise. Jake was up to his tricks again. He was drinking a beer, laughing with his buddies, when he accidentally tipped his glass over. The beer spilled all over the floor, making a big, wet mess. "Oops," he said, "not sorry at all." He leaned back in his chair, grinning, and pointed at the puddle. "Hey, sweetheart," he called to Sarah, "clean that up, will ya? That's your job, right?" His voice was loud and bossy, like he thought he could make her do anything. His friends chuckled, watching to see what she'd do. Sarah didn't argue. She grabbed a mop from the back, walked over, and started cleaning up the mess. She didn't say a word, "No, that's rude," or "Stop it." Just mopped up the beer, quick and quiet. But here's the fun part, before she turned away, she glanced at something on the counter. Jake's bike keys were sitting there, shiny and silver, right where he'd tossed them when he walked in. For just a tiny second, so fast you'd miss it if you blinked, a little smirk popped up on her face. A smirk is like a sneaky smile, the kind you make when you know something nobody else does. Then it was gone, and she went back to mopping like nothing happened. Jake didn't see that smirk. He was too busy laughing with his crew, slapping the table, acting like he was the king of the diner. His buddies were loud too, shouting stuff like, "Yeah, clean it up," and "Good job, Jake." They thought they were winning, pushing Sarah around, making her look small. But something was coming. You could feel it in the air, like when you know a big surprise is about to happen, but you're not sure what it is. The diner felt different now, like it was holding its breath, waiting. Let's picture it more. The diner was warm inside, with that yummy smell of fries and coffee. The jukebox played a slow song, but you could barely hear it over the bikers' noise. The lights glowed soft and yellow, shining on the red seats and the messy tables. Outside, it was dark, and the highway was quiet, no cars, just the sound of crickets. Sarah moved through it all, her apron tied tight, her brown hair still neat in its little band. She looked like a regular waitress, but those steady hands and smooth moves. They were clues, tiny hints that she wasn't just some girl who worked at a diner. Tom watched from behind the counter, biting his nails. He was worried. They're gonna break something, he muttered to himself. The other customers peeked over their cups, whispering things like, "Those guys are mean," or "Poor Sarah." But nobody did anything. They were scared of Jake and his big, loud friends. The bikers kept getting bolder, louder, messy, ruder. They thought they could do whatever they wanted, and Sarah wouldn't stop them. They were wrong. So, what's building up here? Can you feel it? Jake and his crew are pushing harder every night, thinking they're in charge. Sarah's staying quiet, picking up their trash, cleaning their messes, taking their rudeness, but she's not weak. That smirk, those steady hands, the way she moves, it's like she's got a secret plan. What do you think she's up to? Is she just going to keep letting them be mean, or is something big coming? Stick around, friends, because this story's about to take a wild turn. Hey, friends. We're at the best part of the story now, the big moment where everything flips upside down. You've been waiting to see what happens with Sarah and those mean bikers, right? Well, grab a snack and get comfy, because this is the night everything changes. It's going to be wild, and I promise you'll love it. Let's jump in. It started like any other night at the diner. The sun was gone, the sky was dark, and the little place was glowing with its warm yellow lights. The jukebox hummed a quiet song, and the smell of burgers and fries floated around. Jake and his biker gang rolled up, just like they'd been doing for days. Their motorcycles growled outside, loud and rumbling, and then they swaggered in big, tough, and acting like kings. They stomped their boots on the floor, laughed too loud, and shouted their orders at Sarah. Burgers. Beers. Hurry up, they barked, plopping down at their favorite table. Same old stuff, right? That's what everyone thought. Sarah was there, doing her job like always. She moved fast, bringing their food and drinks, her apron tied tight. She didn't smile or talk much, just nodded and kept going. Jake and his crew didn't care. They were busy being loud, tossing napkins around, acting like they owned the diner. The other people, eating regular folks like Mr. Jenkins with his pie, kept their heads down. Tom, the nervous owner, peeked from behind the counter, hoping nothing bad would happen. It felt like just another night of Jake being a bully. But this time? Oh, this time was different. Jake decided to push too far. Sarah was walking by with a tray, heading to another table, when he reached out. He grabbed her arm hard and yanked her close to him. His hands squeezed tight, and he leaned in, his face right next to hers. "You're gonna learn some respect tonight," he growled, his voice low and mean. His breath smelled like beer, hot and stinky. His grin was gone, replaced with a nasty look, like he wanted to scare her bad. The diner went dead silent. No one moved. The jukebox song kept playing, but it felt far away. Tom froze behind the counter, his eyes wide. The customers stared at their plates, too afraid to look up. You could hear your own heartbeat, it was so quiet. Jake's grip got tighter. He thought he had her, thought she'd cry or beg or run. But then Sarah moved. And wow, did she move fast. In one quick twist, like lightning, she pulled her arm free. Before Jake could blink, she grabbed his arm, flipped it behind his back, and bam, slammed him face first onto the table. Plates crashed to the floor, smashing into pieces. Food flew everywhere, fries, ketchup, all over the place. Jake's nose hit the table hard, and he yelped like a hurt dog. The whole diner shook with the noise. His biker crew jumped up, shouting, "Hey! What's that?" They were mad, ready to fight. One guy rushed at Sarah, fists up, but she didn't stop. She kicked a chair right into his legs, whack, and he tripped, sprawling flat on the floor with a big thud. Another biker came at her, a tall one with a mean face. Sarah grabbed him by his leather jacket, spun him around, and tossed him into a booth like he was a toy. He crashed into the seat, legs up in the air, groaning loud. It was so fast, like a superhero movie. Jake tried to get up, pushing against the table, but Sarah wasn't done. She planted her foot on his back firm and strong and pushed him down. "Stay down," she said, her voice low and cold, like ice. The room was stunned. Nobody could believe it. Jake's face was squished against the table, his eyes wide and confused. His crew was a mess, one guy on the floor, another stuck in the booth, the rest just standing there, mouths open. Tom's glasses slipped down his nose, and he didn't even fix them, he was too shocked. The customers peeked up from their plates, whispering, "What just happened?" The air felt electric, like something huge had exploded in the diner. Jake sputtered, his voice all shaky. Who the heck are you?" he mumbled, trying to twist his head to see her. He sounded scared now, not tough. Sarah straightened up, brushing her hands off like she'd just finished a little chore. She looked down at him, calm as ever, and said, "Me." Her voice was almost casual, like she was chatting about the weather. "I'm Sarah Miller. Retired Delta Force. And you just picked the wrong waitress to mess with." Boom. There it was, the big secret. The whole diner gasped. Delta Force? That's the super tough, super secret team in the army, like the coolest, strongest fighters ever. Retired means she used to do it but stopped, except now, she was showing everyone she still had it. Jake's eyes got huge. His crew stopped moving, like they turned to stone. Tom's jaw dropped so low it almost hit the counter. The customers started buzzing, whispering, "Delta Force? Her? No way. Let's picture it more." Sarah stood there, tall and strong, her apron still on but looking different now, like it couldn't hide who she really was. Her brown hair was a little messy from the fight, but her green eyes were bright and sharp. The diner was a wreck, plates broken, chairs tipped, food all over. Jake was pinned under her foot, his leather jacket wrinkled, his tough guy act gone. His buddies looked silly, one rubbing his head, another crawling out of the booth. The jukebox clicked to a new song, but nobody cared. All eyes were on Sarah. She didn't yell or brag. She just stood there, cool and quiet, letting her words sink in. Retired Delta Force. That meant she'd fought big battles, trained super hard, and knew how to handle guys like Jake without even sweating. All those nights of him being rude, spilling beer, throwing money, snapping his fingers, she'd been watching, waiting, ready. And now, she showed them all. Jake groaned under her foot, his face red. I didn't know," he whined, but it was too late. His crew didn't know what to do. They thought Sarah was just a little waitress they could boss around. Now they saw the truth, she was tougher than all of them put together. The customers started clapping, slow at first, then louder. "Go, Sarah," someone shouted. Tom pushed his glasses up, blinking fast, like he couldn't believe it either. This was it, the big reveal. Sarah wasn't just a waitress. She was a hero, a fighter, someone who'd faced way scarier things than a bunch of loud bikers. Jake picked the wrong person to mess with, and now everyone knew it. The diner felt alive, buzzing with shock and cheers. What happens next? Oh, friends, it's not over yet. Stick with me, because Sarah's story has more to give. Okay, friends, let's wrap up this awesome story. We're at the part where everything settles down, and Sarah shows everyone who's boss. Ready? Here we go. After Sarah's big reveal, the bikers were totally shocked. They didn't know what hit them. She didn't even need to fight more, her words were enough. Retired Delta Force scared them silly. Delta Force is a super tough army team, the best of the best, and Sarah was one of them. This quiet waitress? Jake's face turned white, like he'd seen a ghost. His crew stepped back, hands up, saying, sorry, real fast. They weren't tough anymore, they were scared. Tom, the diner owner, finally spoke. You're serious?" he asked, his voice all shaky. Sarah nodded and pulled off her apron. "I kept it quiet for a reason," she said. "But I'm done playing nice." Her voice was calm but strong, like she meant it. The diner was quiet for a second, everyone staring at her, amazed. News spread super quick. By morning, the whole town was talking about it. Sarah's Delta Force, People said, whispering and smiling. Jake and his gang? They didn't dare come back. People said they zoomed out of Texas on their bikes, gone for good. The diner got busier than ever. Folks came from all over just to see the Delta Force waitress. They wanted to meet her, hear her story, eat where it all happened. But Sarah didn't stay long. She left a note for Tom that said, "Time for a quieter life." Then she was gone. Nobody knew where she went, but one thing was sure, wherever she ended up, no one would ever think she was just a regular person again. She was a hero, and everyone knew it now. Hey, friends. We've reached the end of Sarah's cool story. Let's talk about it for a minute, okay? Here's the big finish. So, that's it, a small town waitress with a huge secret turned everything upside down for some mean bikers. Pretty awesome, right? It makes you think. Who's around you every day that might be hiding something amazing? Maybe the quiet kid at school, the one who doesn't talk much, is super strong or smart. Maybe the person you don't notice, the one everyone overlooks, is the toughest of all. Sarah was like that. Nobody thought she was special, but she showed them. And what about the bullies, like Jake? The ones who push people around, acting big and tough? They don't expect the quiet ones to fight back. They never see it coming, just like Jake didn't see Sarah coming. That's the fun part, sometimes the people who seem small end up being the biggest heroes. What do you think about Sarah's story? Did it surprise you when she turned out to be Delta Force? Did it make you feel strong or happy? Tell me in the comments below, I want to hear. If her adventure made you smile or cheer, smash that like button so I know. And if you love stories like this, ones that keep you guessing, hit subscribe. I've got more fun tales to share with you. Sarah's story shows us something cool: you don't have to be loud to be powerful. The quiet ones can change everything. So, look around, who's your Sarah? And maybe, just maybe, you're stronger than you think, too. See you next time, friends. Stay awesome.